We're trying a new approach. I've been trying to go to Illuminati's. That name just cracks me up. It sounds like Illuminati, which is funny. Anyway, we've been trying to go to Illuminati's since they opened, but there's nothing on earth will get me. They're just I love pizza. Nobody on this planet loves pizza more than I love pizza. Pizza is the perfect food. If I weren't 51 and had indigestion, I would eat pizza every day, 3 meals a day. And of course, then I'd be 300 pounds and have really bad indigestion. But nonetheless, I love pizza, and I'm very intrigued to try the famous Illuminati's, which I've never had. So that's odd. But you'd have to be a complete nut job to stand in line for an hour and a half for a pizza, because nobody's is that good. And I will stand by that firmly, and I have eaten pizzas that are supposedly the best in the world, and nobody's is that good. Or nobody's is that much better than anybody else's, than some other people. In other words, for example, Chris Bianco's Pizzeria Bianco. Frankly, there's 4 pizza places that make a pizza almost as good. So why wait 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours to get in that place when I can have one just pretty much as good and not be a complete prat for standing there? So I'm not going to do this with Illuminati's, but I've been trying to get in. It's only open last week and this week. I've been trying to get in with my friend David, who works until 6, so he doesn't get here till 6:30, and when we go straight there, then there's a line. They open at 4. We've abandoned David. Sorry, David. We're not taking him because we tried yesterday. Still no good. We're going to try to be there at 4 o'clock. And a little bit of a wait I don't mind. Not, hours not happening. 15, 20 minutes maybe. Okay? So I'm hoping, and that's where we're going. So I'm hoping to have something to report. I wish I was hungrier, but I don't care. I'm having that pizza. 15 minutes till we leave. I'll tell you a story about pizza, because I don't think I've ever told this tale here on Tedium Unlimited. When I say I've spent my entire life looking for the best pizza, that is no joke. I inherited that from my father. My dad was in the Navy, and he was stationed in Miami, Florida in the 1950s. He was a weatherman. He was doing the hurricane watch and the weather for the Navy, for the naval base there. And he and many other people from the military base would go to a place called the Bottle Cap Inn. If you look for it on Google, you can find a few pieces in evidence that it existed. It was apparently once in the Guinness Book of World Records, because the entire place was, and every time it was explained to me, it sounds dreadful, and that was, the entire thing was decorated with bottle caps from one end to the other, top floor, ceilings, tables, presumably the urinals, I don't know, everything. And put in tasteful designs and shellacked or something of that nature. It sounds tacky. My dad said it wasn't, but it sounds tacky. But it was in the Guinness Book of World Records for this feat. And again, apparently it was done by an ex-military guy who had lost the use of his legs, maybe? He was in some way wounded and came back from war, probably World War II, and set this place up and made pizza. And it was like the greatest pizza my dad had ever had. It's also probably the first pizza my dad had ever had. And you can see the problem here, right? He spent the rest of his life trying pizza places, looking for the best pizza as good as the bottle cap in. Now, whether or not that was a good pizza or not, everyone at the base liked it, but how it stacks up against the great pizzas of the world, I don't know. I can never know, because the bottle cap in ceased to exist before I did exist, or at least before I ever had the opportunity to be in Florida. So I have nothing to compare what my dad thought was the best pizza, so I go on my own. But indeed, he has been looking, or was looking, from the time I was born, and so I have been literally on this quest since I was first able to eat solid food. And is there one? No, you heard my thoughts earlier. I love pizza. There's lots of pizzas I really like. There's lots of pizzas. There are very few pizzas I can't eat. I really like pizza. Now, obviously, there are toppings you can put on pizza to ruin them, like anything other than meat. But I love pizza. So I'm pretty, in a way, I'm very demanding. I hate bad stuff on pizza, uncooked crust, bad cheese, cheap sauce, things like those. Those can make a bad pizza, but I don't like to make predictions, particularly since my dad is no longer with us to make his own statement here. I can assure you he would have hated, and I mean hated, Illuminati's pizza. Hated. It's like he would have insisted on paying the bill, and when my dad insisted on paying the bill at a restaurant, that's because he wanted to bitch about it afterwards. I myself enjoyed the pizza, but I understand what he would have hated about it, and I've had at least one friend who's been there, and his commentary, upon reflection, I understand also what he was saying. So let's dig into this. The base of any pizza is the crust. Now, as you saw in that picture, and I'm sorry the colors are so awful, but we were set right under a giant neon sign, and red neon sign, and I mean there was just nothing I could do. There was no amount of color correcting could fix the fact that there was no color in that shot except red. The crust is a Chicago style crust, and that means it's been pushed into a pan and it's been worked its way up. Now traditionally a Chicago crust is a different dough configuration than a New York crust. It's finer. You could say it's drier. Possibly that's because of the way it's cooked. I'm not sure what causes it. But my dad would have called it a Bisquick crust. I do know what he means when he said that. Bisquick is a brand of biscuit dough, not bread dough, biscuit dough. And that's American biscuits, so is that scones? I'm not 100% sure for UK listeners, but in other words, it's a very dull bread. It's a very dull bread, and if you overcook it, then it's crunchy crack. Anyway, the one I had was what they call a butter crust, which means they also had soaked butter into it, and that did give it a bit more flavor, but it was not a hugely flavorful crust. It was well cooked. It was crunchy. It's what I expect from a Chicago-style pizza. So it's not outside my expectation of what that crust would taste like and be like. But, you know, I'm going to say I do prefer a New York-style pizza, but occasionally I like a Chicago-style pizza. And so, in that respect, the crust was good. It was good. I can't complain. It just was not a hugely flavorful crust. And the kids did not have the butter crust, and I tried that. And there wasn't that much difference. It's a little bit sweeter, and definitely more of that kind of biscuit flavor that my dad would have complained about. So there's that. Next, of course, they layer cheese. They put I think they put toppings down and then layer the cheese. No, they layer the cheese first, right? And that's one of the things that's different about Chicago. These slices of cheese, they layer it down first. There's a lot of cheese there. A lot of cheese. I mean, that is a big swatch of cheese. So if you like eating melted cheese, you're good. And if that's too much cheese for you, if you don't like, you know, we used to get in arguments with people who like want cheese or extra cheese, because there are people, and I love cheese, I'm not crazy about an extra cheese pizza. Occasionally, but you can go too much. It unbalances the rest of the flavors. Borderline too much cheese here definitely would be too much cheese for a lot of people. Would have been way too much cheese for my dad. Again, that would be another one of these things. He likes cheese or liked cheese, but yeah, and mozzarella is not the most flavorful cheese. So we have a sort of not flavorful crust and a sort of not flavorful huge wad of cheese. Mine was layered with sausage. You could not complain about the quantity of sausage. It was very mild. It was a very, very mild sausage. My dad really liked spicy Italian sausage. He liked strong sausage. This was a very, very mild. You could almost say it wasn't an Italian sausage, but it was a very mild sausage. Lots of it. No complaint about it. But mild. So, mild crust, mild cheese, mild sausage. And then finally we come to the sauce. Now, if you ever, and I had an Italian aunt who taught me to cook spaghetti sauce and pasta sauce. And I hate tomatoes. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not like raw tomatoes. But tomato sauce, right? So here's the deal. When you're cooking a sauce, if you're doing it the right way is not don't measure the ingredients and put them in. The right way is, so one of the ingredients in a pasta sauce is sugar. And you put the sugar in the sauce, but how much sugar you put in the sauce depends entirely upon the tomatoes that you've got. And so you can overdo it. What you use on one batch is great, and the next batch is too much or too little. You have to do it by taste, which I don't like. I don't like that part of cooking it because it tastes like tomato, and you put a little more sugar in, tomato. And then suddenly there's an instant where it goes from tasting like tomatoes to tasting like a pasta sauce. Now, different people like different things. There is a point. There is a moment in time, a small, brief window, just maybe a teaspoon's different of sugar in a whole pot, where it exists in a teeter-totter balance between that tomatoey flavor and the standard pasta sauce flavor. And if you can hit it, if you can hit that spot exactly, you get a sauce that tastes like a pasta sauce but has a little bit of tart left in it. Now, I have to say, I really like a sauce right on that point, but they are few and far between, and they are hard to do, and they're certainly hard to do consistently. Again, you have to kind of be tasting the sauce and putting it in and mixing it and tasting it to hit that point. It takes a lot of work, and it's usually not worth it. So this sauce was very, very close to that point, but because they had also used larger pieces of tomato that were not cooked down to blended point, you kind of got chunks of tomato. They really are the sauce, but they're just a very pulpy sauce is what you're getting there. And I can deal with that as long as the sauce is a little on the sweet side, because the pulp doesn't adopt the sweetness, and so you've got the balance. So you can achieve the balance with it. It wasn't quite right, but it was very close. It was very close to the perfect pasta sauce, but again, incredibly mild. And because it was chunky, it was just a little bit off. And so in every respect, I enjoyed the pizza. I ate the pizza. I would eat the pizza again. I certainly would never wait an hour for that pizza. But I can understand the criticisms I've heard that it didn't have. James didn't think it had a whole lot of flavor. It is a Chicago style pizza, and that is a different animal than a New York style pizza. And if you live in a world where they can both coexist, as I do, and not try to say one is better than the other, although New York style is obviously better. You can just tell by the way I'm saying this. But understanding that Chicago style is a thing of itself, then, just as lasagna and ravioli are not the same thing. They're made of virtually the same things, but they are not the same thing. They come out differently because they are cooked differently and they have a different approach. So yes, I enjoyed it. And I wouldn't diss it. And I'm glad they're here, and I am very pleased that they're doing a good business, because, that just means more businesses can come in and do great things too. So overall pleased. We'll wait a few weeks and then try to go in with my friend David, and maybe we can get one that's not underneath the red neon sign. And of course I can't get it delivered because I'm 3 streets out of their delivery range. 3 streets, and I don't mean like mile-long city blocks. I mean just little residential blocks. 3 streets. That's it. And otherwise, with a pizza that takes 30 minutes to cook, minimum, I wouldn't actually mind having them deliver to my house. Let's see, was there anything else? Yes, we got there right at 4, or I got there about 5 minutes to 4. Juan had gotten there maybe 10 minutes before 4, and they were already letting people in, and they were almost in the door when I got there, and it wasn't 4 yet. So we got a couple nasty looks when Michelle and I got there, and then they let us in, but they put us in the lobby and they said, "Oh, table for 4. Okay, that'll be 5-10 minutes." I thought, well, that's not bad. And then we stood around watching quite a few empty tables and booths for 5 or 10 minutes before they decided to seat us. And it's not like they didn't have a ton of people running around working there. So I don't understand what that delay was. It was frustrating. It was frustrating and kind of annoying. Because there were 4 empty booths and at least 4 top tables available, and there were the 4 of us, and they didn't take us back. I don't know, it's as if they were trying to get us to buy something at the bar while we waited, but the problem is we were in sight of the empty seats. There were, had tables stacked up and napkins out, and they were all ready to go, and we were eventually seated at one of those, so that was but they were very nice. Everyone was very nice and very helpful, and there were some people out from Chicago. They were taking time talking to people and just taking the temperature of the crowd. And I think it was a generally appreciative crowd, but not perfect, but definitely if you like Chicago style, I would say it's unique in Phoenix. There are a couple of other Chicago style places that I might recommend to you if you wanted Chicago style pizza in Phoenix. Whether or not they're authentic, I don't know, because I've never had time to eat pizza in actually Chicago. But that is the deal. I've rambled on about pizza, but then that's because pizza is a wonderful thing. Anyway, remember, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on Tedium Unlimited, where the tedium is without end, which is unlimited. Tedium infinite. I should have come with infinite.